Magic reveals itself to those who remember where to look for it. This is Magic Hour, and I'm your host, Taylor Page. Welcome to Magic Hour, everyone. I'm your host, Taylor Page, and I'm here with our producer, Claire.
Hi, everyone.
And today we have a magical, beautiful guest, Shiva Rose. She is the founder of the holistic lifestyle blog, The Local Rose, and the creator of the natural skincare line, which, side note, I love, Shiva Rose Beauty. After being diagnosed with life-threatening autoimmune diseases, she began her journey on the path of wellness and spirituality. Her book, Whole Beauty, published by Artisan, encompasses various modalities that have enhanced her health. The book touches upon Ayurvedic practices, DIY beauty recipes, spiritual practices, Kundalini meditations, tonic recipes, guidance for crystals, and more. Shiva brings her connection to the spiritual world with a combination of tea ceremonies, yoni egg rituals, and beauty rituals to women to assist them on their path towards healing and feeling more vital. She lives near the Santa Monica Mountains with her daughter, Charlotte, their menagerie of animals where they grow their own food and live close to the land. Welcome, Shiva Rose.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. I know you don't know this, but you were one of the first people that I emailed to be a guest on Magic Hour.
Oh my God, thank you.
Yes, because to me, you exemplify magical living, being connected to magic, being connected to the wild divine feminine, being connected to the land. And you're like the blueprint for what I see when I think of goddess energy.
Oh my gosh, I'm so flattered. Thank you. So honored. And forgive me, I think I sent you an old bio, but I have moved since then to Texas. So I'm even in more rural. I'm in like rural Texas where we have no Wi-Fi. Actually, we're using satellite right now. So to connect since that, I meant to send you a more recent bio. So anyways.
Okay, no worries. You got my hopes up because I live near the Santa Monica Mountains. I was like, wow, we're neighbors.
I know. I figured. I'm like, I bet you live. I was going to ask you, do you live near there? So it's beautiful.
Yes, it is. And so we like to ask our guests what their sun, moon, and rising are.
I love that. Get it right out of the gate.
Yes.
So my sun is Aquarius, which seems very fitting. I really do identify as an Aquarius. And I know sometimes in Vedic, you're the month earlier or, depending on the cycle, but I'm always like, I think I'm an Aquarius. Even in Vedic, I'm sure I'm an Aquarius.
Yeah.
So that's my sun. And then my moon is Scorpio, which I think is such a great balance for the sun in Aquarius, because it's sort of, gives you more of like a deepness. Because I know my Aquarian self is like, so like sometimes I can just get a little bit of surface for everything because it's so quick, but the Scorpio will like bring it deeper and darker, and the moods, which it's not easy having a Scorpio moon. That's all.
Yeah.
Your shadowy depths of emotions. And then my rising, I thought it was Libra, but I believe it's Gemini now. So,
wow.
Hard communication, but a lot of air.
Yes. That makes sense with the writing of the book and the sharing ideas and the connecting on podcasts. It's funny because Claire is an Aquarius sun and I'm a Scorpio sun.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
Okay, we're like exactly.
Exactly. So we're here to just... Exactly. I love that. And Aquarius and Scorpio fall into the signs that I categorize as difficult to carry early in life. But if you can find the magic in them, if you can learn to work with them, I think they also give you the highest potential for power once you've learned their messages. So really powerful big three that you have. And it's nice that the Gemini rising could give you a little bit of lightness too from such heavy hitters.
Exactly. A little bit more lightness. Yes, definitely. And I guess your rising is sort of what the world sees, right? So it makes sense.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
even the Libra would make sense too, because of all of the connection to beauty and Venusian themes. So I'm wondering if you have some seventh house or some Taurus
Well, I know
Okay.
my Venus is in Aries, and I have two
Mm,
really very good girlfriends whose Venuses are in Aries, um,
yeah.
Lacey Phillips and Nitsa Citrine, and the three of us have this little like support group text. We haven't texted in a while, but it's like a Venus and Aries support group because when your Venus is in Aries, like in all areas of my life, I'm pretty calm and rational and, think about things. But when it comes to love, money, and creativity,
Yeah.
which is where
Yeah.
Venus rules, I'm like all fire. And it's so interesting. Like in other areas of my life, it's all very, ooh, cool.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I love that. And so the other question that we like to ask is how does your intuition show up for you?
Well, I don't think I know anything else but that. I feel like that rules
Mm.
my life, especially currently right now. It's definitely my compass. It's definitely my guardian. It's my like maybe the deity that if I were to worship a deity, because I feel like it's especially the times that I've lived in the last like 5 years or even my whole life, like when the whole world will say left, I'll go right, or the whole world will say white, I'll say black, just because
Mhm.
I'm trusting my intuition. And it takes a long time to honor that. And, as we get older, we sort of really learn to trust that muscle. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm very grateful to it.
That's amazing. And that's so Aquarian of you to say, no, I'm not following the masses. I'm trusting my higher knowing. And it's okay if I'm the black sheep or going in a different direction.
Oh,
I'm,
yeah.
mhm.
Yes.
That's
Yes. It's put
amazing.
me in a lot of hot water. And at times I've even questioned it. I've been like, okay, intuition or spirit, is this truly should I take this road? And it's always a yes. And then for a moment, I may doubt it. And then inevitably it'll be like the right decision, even if it's like a year from now or a couple years from now. So, I
Wow.
have to trust that.
My definition of intuition is the sum of all the times we've trusted ourselves. So it seems like in this place, all of these intuitive hits that have had you questioning yourself, but ultimately trusting has just gotten you to such a superpower place. I wanted to ask, since moving to a more rural part of the country, if you've heard your intuition in a new way, or if there is a connection for you between the land, silence, and intuitive connection.
Oh, most definitely. And I think part of that, unfortunately, is the EMF that we are bombarded with. And so we don't even know, that we're being
Yeah.
bombarded with it until we get to the quiet, until we
Yeah.
get to somewhere where it's just like still, and you see stars that you've never seen before, and you hear the sounds and your feet, really embrace it. You don't even know, I think, how thirsty you are for those things until you have it,
Mm.
and, yeah, it's interesting because I just got a place like a woman's gathering retreat center, I hope, in New Mexico.
Wow.
And there is absolutely no Wi-Fi there. And it's Adobe, so the walls are so thick. I even had the internet guy come and he was like, I can't get Wi-Fi here. I was like, okay, it's a sign. But it is like stepping into a cave. Like going there the last week, I was like, wow, this is so different for our nervous systems. Like we don't even realize, until it's like the kind of thing you don't even realize till you feel it.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Ojai, and
Oh,
yeah, and Ojai isn't now what it was when I was born there 33
yes,
years ago, but it
yes.
used to be a super small town, and I could feel the difference when I moved to LA. It was very, very different. And I think the star pollution is like, or the light pollution with the stars is a perfect metaphor.
Yes.
Um,
Oh, High's amazing. And believe me, I've been going there probably around 30 years and
oh, nice.
I've seen it in all its, transformations. It's such a magical place.
It is. I'm so grateful to be born there. So, here at Magic Hour, we believe that there's a desperate need for ritual over routine. I feel like people go through their days in these routines that they don't think about twice, and it cuts off their intuitive flow with what their body is asking for. And ritual is something that has been so sanitized and lost and rushed through. And I know you're a queen of creating different types of rituals. And you're also a queen of beauty. And I just wanted to ask because so many people are going through big transitions in their life. And I'm wondering if you could suggest some type of beauty ritual or daily ritual for women going through transition or learn specifically maybe motherhood or postpartum or learning to love a new version of themselves.
That's a wonderful question. Well, I really do believe and agree with what you're saying. And I think my book talks a lot about that, but I feel like we crave ritual, and you can make anything a ritual by adding intention to it. Ritual is something that many of us are starving for. And in my book, Whole Beauty, I talk a lot about how rituals brought me back to healing myself and getting a deeper connection with the earth and cycles. And at one time we lived like this. At one time we lived by honoring the cycles of the moon and our cycles and the cycles of the seasons, and we were so in tune. So we've sort of lost that deep connection to ritual. And so for me, I think it's definitely a part of my life in every way. And as far as for women to honor, the next phase of their life, either as mothers or even going from maiden to mother and mother to enchantress or medicine woman, and then to crone, which is something that I've been delving very deep in, is the different chapters. Yes, we should honor every cycle with a ritual. And I would say water is a huge part of that. Water, the more I'm going deeper on the subject of water, the more I realize that we can infuse the water with intentions. And we are made of water mostly. And our bodies crave the water. Our bloods are made of water. And so especially as a mother, the blood that you've lost and the amniotic fluid that you've created and given up, like these are all things that we can do to honor the waters that have been running in our lives. And once we give it back to our child and the earth, then how do we replenish it? So I would say I would do some baths, some beautiful baths with, Rose, which is a queen of all flowers and signifies the mother. I would, do certain oils, like you could do frankincense for clearing and bringing in, and salt, which is wonderful because it's a mineral, the mineral content we absorb, certain herbs. So I definitely think a bath is always the best way to symbolize that.
I love that. And I'm such a bath girl myself. So I love that so much. And so when you say working with oils, do you mean put that into the water of the bath or on ourselves?
Yeah, I would do. Well, definitely, in my book too, I talk a lot about Abhyanga, which is the Ayurvedic form of self-massage that you do with oil. And, in the Ayurvedic tradition, when a mama has a baby for 40 days, she is massaged and fed and taken care of, so she doesn't leave her bed if she doesn't want to for 40 days and 40 nights. That prevents postpartum, prevents colic, gives the mother all the nourishment that she requires after going through such a huge ordeal physically. So so Abhyanga is a form of self massage, and if you don't have someone performing that for you, you can learn to do it yourself. And it's like using these incredible oils to give back to your body. Oils, you could do sesame oil in Ayurvedic tradition. I love to use like olive and avocado, and I make some oils. I make a breast oil called Ondine, which is all about like nourishing the breast and the lymph system and how to massage that area to really release and clear. So I would do all of those things.
That's so beautiful. And as we're speaking, I realize how much water is a through line of everything, like the bath rituals, your tea ceremonies. And so it's bringing me to bring up your Waterways of the Feminine Mystique workshop. I heard you say on Instagram that the feminine urge to be near water is actually a deeper spiritual invitation. And that resonated with me. And I know it resonated with Claire as a Pisces moon.
Definitely.
And so I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit more about that feminine urge to be near water and what the water is trying to remind us of.
Well, of our innate self, when we are filled, our wells fulfilled, like we literally, then we're in overflow, and then we can give. Women are vessels. We're literally made to receive, in every way. So, but we're constantly giving. And I think in this patriarchal dynamic that we've all been raised in, it's all about give, give, give rather than like taking time to receive. So I think the water is showing us so much. Like stagnant water becomes, you can't drink it. It becomes poison. So how do we keep our waters flowing through our lymph system, which is our greatest rivers in our body, through our womb, which is this beautiful, ocean of movement, through, our just every parts of our cells, our spinal fluid, which is like, they're realizing now that it's like very close to crystals, like one molecule away from crystals and stars, so we are so intrinsically connected to the magical components of water. And I think we've like disgraced water in such a way in our society, in our culture. And I mean, just the idea of damming up, a river, like it's like like, can you imagine damming up women, which they do, and it's like, what happens? You go mad, you go stagnant, you go, the fish don't want to swim there anymore. There's no life. So it's all about like freeing our waters, clearing our waters. And, we need to drink structured water. The problem is most of us are drinking water and not getting hydrated because the water is dead. When you look at natural water, it runs in like a vortex. It's structured naturally in rivers and streams and fountains. And so we can start doing that ourselves, which is many people now are doing that. You can get those wands and like stir your water, drink spring water if you have access. I mean, you're in California, you guys have access to great spring waters. You can look up a spring near you, find a spring.com, and it'll tell you where the natural springs are. And those are filled with minerals and nutrients. And then we're hydrated. We're actually hydrating our bodies,
Yeah, and we're stirring our inner waters and inner cauldron of creation. I love that. And so much of what you just said excited me and made me want to go in a million different directions with you. But something that really stood out was when you said that stagnant water is poison. And I feel like living in a patriarchal society, this phrase keeps coming back to me, which I think is so relevant for women and mothers in particular, which is lighting yourself on fire to keep everyone else warm. And I think that that is the inverse energy of this watery, flowy, feminine energy that you're inviting people to reconnect with, because that's our true nature as women. And so I think we're so kind of out of balance with the fire element, with go, 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 do, do, do. And I think even bigger than that is this idea of environmental feminism, which is the way we treat the earth is a direct reflection of how we treat women and our bodies. And so I really love the work that you're doing and what you're talking about, because it's such important and purposefully buried information for women.
Yes, it's been buried. At one time we had sacred priestesses that prayed over waters that came out. We've gotten so far out of touch. Like we don't, the idea that we had like these sacred priestesses, water priestesses, or, or myrrh is from, it's part of like mermaid, but it's also ocean, but it's also like means Mary, which is like Mother Mary and Magdalena. And there's so much that when we start diving into like how we were once so deeply connected to water, we've just lost that. And it's true. I think it definitely changes you. I think I posted too recently that since I started drinking spring water, I feel like rewilding has happened in my cells. And I believe that, of course, you are what you drink, you are what you eat. Like that is definitely going to affect me in a different way.
Yeah, we focus so much on what we eat, but not necessarily so much on the quality of what we drink. And that's so important. And I know so many people, including myself in the past, would drink out of plastic a lot. And that can't be good for our bodies, our hormones, or anything either.
Right. No, definitely not. That's like, I mean, I'm terrible. I'm one of those people that'll just have no water on the plane rather than like water, which isn't good either, but I've just become such a water snob,
I've actually recently become the same way. I'm like, bottled still, please. I can't do anything else. I can't do tap water.
In glass. Yeah.
Exactly. In glass.
You actually can take on the plane frozen water and say it's like medicinal. And then it can melt. Yeah, I just found that out. I think it's a specific size, but if you wanted to take some clean, beautiful water, you could freeze it and then take it on the plane.
That is really cool. Thank you for that. And I feel like
Mhm.
so many women, like you said, feel this call and this draw to the water. And I feel like that's an invitation to reconnect with their true nature and their true self, which leads me to I'm very curious about your journey with healing your autoimmune disorder. I find, and I would love to hear if you agree with me on this, that autoimmune and health things are in some ways a deeper invitation to reconnect to the divine feminine in a world that we're operating in such a masculine energy.
Mhm.
And I've struggled with my own autoimmune and health journey as well. And so I'm wondering, can you talk a little bit about that journey and how it helped you reconnect more to your own natural rhythms?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, when I was diagnosed, I was 26, 25, 26. I just had my first daughter. So, this is so long ago that they didn't know. I think it was just starting, people were just starting to say autoimmune. So really for me, it wasn't like this, it was like came out of it was a byproduct of trying to heal myself because doctors couldn't. So it wasn't like
Mm.
I went on this path thinking, I mean, I was just desperate. So I had to go to libraries and research this pre-internet, research everything and go to Chinese TCM modalities to help heal and figure out diet correlation and detoxing the body because nobody, the doctors really truly did not help. Or if they helped, they would give me steroids, which then I would have enough, counter reaction to that. And I remember being like, but I think the steroids cause this. And they were like, no, no. So more steroids, and it was just like this catch 22. And I really felt like, oh gosh, this is like all those women that supposedly went crazy or mad or hysterical, like Virginia
Mm.
Woolf or Sylvia Plath. I bet you they had like hormonal issues or health issues and they weren't heard. So it was just so easy to say they were, hysterical or crazy. And then they ended up doing horrible things to themselves. But it's really, I could see though how the system was just so, against you healing. So yes, being a rebel by nature, I just said, by the way, allopathic medicine has its place. Like, I think it's
Yes.
wonderful for diagnostic reasons and, God forbid, emergencies. But yes, everything else I really try, and that's where the intuition comes in, right? I try to use my pendulum, if something is bothering me, I'll try to like ask my body. I'll really try to go in deep to hear the answers, which it's not as fast and direct, but it usually is true.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had my own medical mystery things and doctors trying to pump me full of things that would cause other side effects. And just like you said, Western medicine has a place, but it doesn't shine when it comes to mystery illnesses or them listening to women talking about what's happening with us. Hey,
Right.
I
Or
mean,
the root cause. Have you tried to get to
the
the
root
root
cause.
cause of the issue, which usually, now, thank God we have so much access, but usually it's mold, parasites, bacteria, or too many heavy metals from certain things. Like there's definitely now they're realizing like there is a root cause, right, to these things.
Yeah.
Root canals, if you've had any root canals or wisdom teeth, that's been a journey I've been on too. We're finding you just start going deeper and deeper and realizing, oh my gosh, it could be this, it could be that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it can be scary for some people to include intuition as part of their medical process. But I also think it's really important to realize that the body is our biggest divining tool. And if it's telling you that something doesn't resonate with you or that it isn't right, it's at least worth checking out and giving credence to for yourself. I know that you do tea ceremonies as well. And I'm wondering if there are particular herbs or anything you would recommend for heightening intuition.
Well, blue lotus, of course, it's been used since Egyptian times, and that is a wonderful, beautiful flower. I mean, just looking at it is like such a magical creature. So blue lotus has been used for eons for that. I definitely think I'm trying to think what else. Sandalwood, that's what the Hindus put on their forehead when they put some
Mm.
sandalwood powder up on their forehead, and that's supposed to open up your third eye. Kundalini yoga, breath work.
Wow, that's so interesting. And it's so interesting too, knowing that you're an Aquarius sun and a Scorpio moon, because in so many ways you've had to break the mold, be a rebel, go your own way with the Aquarius sun. And the Scorpio moon is like a no BS detector. It's like a lie detector. And it's like, I will get to the bottom of this. I will get to the truth of this. And
Right. You're right. It's the detective, right? Because Scorpios are
Mhm.
definitely seekers. They're always seeking. So yes, you're right. I never thought of that.
Exactly. It like gives that depth to what your Aquarius sun wants to rebel against, which I love. And so when you say structured water, do you mean water with its minerals intact?
Well, that too, minerals. So structured water is, I don't know if you've seen any of the beautiful work by the Japanese professor from years ago. And there's also Vita Austin, who does a lot of work with water. She freezes water. She'll do things like say words or play music and then freeze them and then look under a microscope at the crystals the waters create. So structured water is when all the cells of the water are structured together and crystallized. And that's why when it comes out naturally, it comes in a vortex and it naturally does that.
Oh,
And our cells can absorb this structured water, whereas it can't, plastic water, just plain water that's been denatured won't do much to you. It just will
yeah.
probably give you worse things. But when the water is vortex, which you can do, there's these wands. I'm actually going to start posting them on Instagram with a what's it called, code, because I believe in it so much. You stir your water with this wand in a beautiful vessel, spring water, and you can also add minerals because a lot of the water has been demineralized. These are some of the ways, and there's so many machines now. Like I also have a hydrogen water machine, like a little one. It's called ion bottles. And what it does is it makes because water is basically hydrogen and oxygen, right? So the hydrogen, some people believe, is like what connects us to divinity and God.
Wow.
And it's like this beautiful element in water. And when you drink hydrogenized water, it really gives you energy and, supposedly it helps heal your body and really, really magnetizes things.
Yes, that's actually the next thing I was going to ask you was how people can try to make their water more magical at home if they don't have access to spring water or a
Yeah.
machine.
And that's the thing. I don't think most people, it's expensive to like,
Yeah.
you're like, okay, now I have to go and that's why these wands are wonderful, or just find maybe a crystal wand that you have, stir your water, even just by stirring it, you're creating structure, singing to your water, saying an intention, adding minerals. Like we said, if you're drinking tap water, you should definitely, I think if I lived in LA City and was drinking tap, I would probably do a reverse osmosis, but then the water is dead, right? Reverse
Mhm.
osmosis kills everything. But then I would add again the minerals and the structuring, like the stirring, things like that, to really like bring it back to life.
I love that. And what is your opinion on infusions? Do you ever work with infusions or make infusions? And can you tell our listener what an infusion is?
Oh yes, I mean, for years I've been, like herbal, like nettle leaf or raspberry.
Hmm.
Yeah, I do that daily. Daily, I usually make my infusions the night before. Right now I'm doing nettle, tulsi, and oat straw, and I sometimes switch the herb depending on what I need. Nettles are wonderful for your minerals, wonderful for your hair, and just it's such a deep, rich herb. And then oat straw is a nervine, and it really calms your nervous system and brings you some peace. And tulsi is considered one of the most sacred herbs in India, and tulsi is wonderful too for the nervous system and gives you minerals. So I make sure to buy them from an organic farm, and I just put it in a mason jar and then fill it up with boiling water and let it steep overnight. And then I strain it and drink it throughout the day. So that's pretty easy.
That's so beautiful. And that's such a beautiful way to get our sacred waters flowing too, is just infusing with such beautiful, supportive herbs. I love that so much. As somebody who considers themselves an honorary Persian, because my
I
husband is
know,
Persian.
I love
Yes.
that.
And I love the Persian culture so much. Um,
Aw.
I'm wondering if there's anything from your Persian roots spiritually that you weave into your intuitive practices or spiritual practices.
Oh, yes. Well, Iran, I mean, it's such a beautiful culture, the food, the people, the just all of it. However, I also love Zoroastrianism, which is
Yeah.
pre-Islamic, which is a lot of the holidays like Nowruz and all these things, the jumping over
Yeah.
the fire, all these things are remnants of the Zoroastrian time, which is such a
Mm,
magical religion and faith, and it's all about being connected to the sun and
mm.
nature, and it's so ancient. So, yes, I have recently begun to resurrect Anahita, which is a goddess, Iranian goddess of water, creativity, love, fertility, war, too. Interesting. But she's this amazing goddess. And I've like been, I have an altar to her. And I like when it's going to rain, I send like her, wishes to bring us rain here in Texas. And I'll have a little bit more on her in the water course, but she's definitely something that I've been incorporating in my daily life.
I love that. That's amazing. And I always found it so significant how Nowruz matches up with the astrological New Year too.
Of
I'm like, wow, we're
course.
celebrating the same thing, my love.
I know. Well, that's the thing. When you look at all the rituals, Celtic and, all the old religions and native practices, it's all the same, right? It's just the same. We're honoring nature.
I heard something, which I can't fact check right now, but I just want to share in regards to the New Year date, which is New Year was always supposed to be on the spring equinox. But after the Industrial Revolution, they switched it to winter solstice so that people would still be productive and set goals and work through the winter when for eons before that we would be resting.
Right, right. That makes sense. I mean, so much was switched over when we had a matriarchal society, too. We had a different calendar. But when they switched over to the Gregorian calendar, they kept a few things, such as why do we have 28 days, 28 to 30 days a month? Why? Because women menstruate. They have a 28 to 30 day cycle. So that was remnants of it. Um,
Wow, I did not know that.
Oh, yes. There's a many things that they kind of like snuck in. They're like, well, let's just, put that in there because it works for people. And then the other thing is like a woman has a 28 to 30-year cycle until she goes into, um, starts the change. So when you look at all these like shifts and patterns, you're like, oh yeah, there are a lot of similarities. Or for example, they did take away the 13, we have 13 cycle, a woman has 13 cycles a month. And we have 13 moons. There were 13 sections, but they made it 12. I'm not sure exactly for what reason. And if you look at like September, that's the what, ninth month, but what is
Mhm.
Sep in Latin is 10.
Seven. Oh,
Oh,
10.
seven,
No,
seven. Yeah,
seven, right? Yeah.
yes, and octo is 8, right?
Hmm.
But it's why. I mean, when you start like digging deep into these things, you're like, wait, October is the 10th month, but it means 8. So then you start realizing, wait a second, there's a bunch of things here, irregularities that they forgot about,
That is so interesting. And I live for stuff like that. I call it patriarchal PR. How patriarch because they do such a good job of hiding the divine feminine in plain sight, of demonizing it, of making everything seem scary or evil. Whereas if a man is magical, he's literally a god. And if a woman is magical, she's like a witch that needs to die.
Well, like Mary Magdalene, Mary Magdalene was Jesus's partner, and they made her into a whore, but when you dive deep into Mary Magdalene's, she was an equal, a goddess that was raised in the Egyptian rites, and she brought
Wow.
anointing to, her and Jesus, Yeshua would practice anointing, and they had this beautiful, twin flame relationship. Yeah, it's fascinating. And then if you go to France, you go to the cave. She had to hide in these caves after she left Jerusalem after Yeshua was taken, and she lived up there, and they thought of her as a healer, and she would heal people, in the old ways. But yeah, it's very fascinating when you start going into unearthing all the things that were buried. Or Saint Bridget, Bridget is a goddess, and is now Saint Bridget the saint. So they didn't change that much, really.
Yeah, that is so interesting. For some reason, I'm getting pulled back to the idea of water when you were talking to about Mary Magdalene. And I just got this little download that said water remembers. And I feel like water as an element holds everything, it retains everything. And so I think that this spiritual reconnection through water also has this ancestral relevance where it can connect us back to a lot of what's been forgotten and just help us intuitively. And I think drinking water from different sources or different places might connect you to the wisdom that that land
Oh,
holds.
yes. And that's my dream, is to go to those fountains. There's these beautiful springs in France that Mary Magdalene was at, and the water there is supposed to be so healing and
Wow.
have incredible properties. And yes, the water does remember. And that's, like in Glastonbury too, there's the sacred
I've
water.
been there. I have
Oh,
bathed in
you've been
that.
there. Yeah. Oh
I was
my
just
God.
about to bring that up, actually.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
like magical, and the
Yes.
fact that the spring, there's the white spring and the red spring, and it's been running like that since eons. I mean, there's just so much magic. And yes, again, water is what relates us back to it for sure.
Yes, that just clicked into place. For some reason, you were talking about this. I was vibing with it, but I just clicked into place about that experience I had in Glastonbury, which, for those that don't know, Glastonbury is a place in England where there's Glastonbury Tor, and underneath it is this place called the White Spring. And I was there last fall and I went into the water. And
Mm.
when I walked into that spring, it's like this underground kind of cave with different pools and spring water. I burst into tears immediately. I have never felt such. I was telling my husband this because he was there and he was like, whoa. I told him I'm so used to every sacred, reverent, religious place being to a male god. And this is the first amazing, reverent, sacred space I've been in for goddess energy. And it just touched me so deeply. And I felt this divine, unconditional motherly love. And
Yeah.
I lost my mother in 2021, and I felt her love pulsing through the unconditional mother love. And I was just cleansing myself in these amazing white water, like this amazing waters. And I took my favorite crystal and I left it there as an offering, one that I've been
Oh,
meditating with for like 16 years. I left it there.
wow.
And I was
Well,
like,
that's beautiful, because you're supposed to give in exchange, definitely.
yes.
Especially with water, you all do an offering. So that's beautiful.
Yes, it
Oh,
was amazing. And that's like the beautiful thing about water is it's cleansing. It will hold you. It can be any
right.
temperature you want it to be. Like it's just so adaptable.
It is. It is. It's like what the mother does, which is like feed, nourish, protect, all the things that the mother does. Definitely.
Oh, I love
Oh.
that. I wanted to ask you, when we were talking about tea ceremonies and you were talking about Blue Lotus for intuition, are those herbs that you suggested also okay to do for infusions, or is that going to be too powerful?
No, I think it depends. What, maybe you don't do it every day, a daily, but the tea ceremony I do is not infusions. It's actually tea that is grown in China or Taiwan, that's hasn't been bastardized in any way, and it's from old growth tea trees, and it's done in the ceremonial tradition of Chadao. So that's the tea ceremony I do, and it's not with the infusions. But I would do, what I would do, maybe it depends. I think, again, you have to listen. I probably wouldn't do it like every day, the Blue Lotus, but
Yeah.
maybe try it for like 3 days in a row, and ask yourself, maybe you're asking a question. And then once you
Yeah.
get the question, and then I'll always offer it back to the earth too. I mean, it just,
Mm.
when you use infusion, go put it in the garden and give it back to the planet.
I've been doing a lot of work with thyme lately. I've been like brewing thyme tea every single night. And I love that idea of giving it back to the earth after. I'm going to definitely implement that. I wanted to ask you because a lot of people feel a call to be in nature more or more connected to nature. But besides kind of like hiking around or sitting in nature, they don't always know how to feel integrated and one with nature. And as someone who lives so closely to the land, I'm wondering if you could give some suggestions to feel more connected to nature.
Well, I think if you just are barefoot, you can really start feeling the energy of the magnetism of the earth, coming up through your feet. Another thing you can do is have you hugged a tree? I know it sounds silly, but if you put your hands on a tree, you can actually start like really tuning in. You can feel the energy coursing up the tree and going into you. And it's pretty magical. I would say like that's a wonderful thing to do. Maybe grow a garden. And if you don't live if you don't have a garden, then do it in a pot, with soil and plant some seeds. I mean, there's something so nourishing about seeing something grow that you've, imbued with your love. And, it just needs water and sun and beautiful soil. So I think those things really help. I mean, it's been such a balm for me. Like I don't go to talk therapy, but I'll go to like my walk therapy where I'll just like let everything out. If I have to yell, if I have to yell, if I have to cry, and then I'll just talk to like the earth and the trees. And it's just, I come back and I'm like, oh, everything was great.
I love that. Who could be a better therapist than nature? That's amazing.
Exactly. And it's
So
free.
I know, and it's free and it's our birthright. It's how we always
Exactly.
meant to be doing it. So I wanted to ask you, for people looking to live a more holistic lifestyle, but feel a little overwhelmed because we do live in such a toxic world and we really have to find these answers and carve our way for ourselves to live in a healthy way in this society. What are some starting points for people who are looking to get a little bit more holistic?
Well, I would say, definitely start with your water and your food. Whatever you put in your body, that's going to make such a huge difference. So read labels. I wouldn't buy anything if it has something that you can't spell or read, I would try to organic. Like that's helping our planet. It's helping our farmers. It's helping our bodies. Glyphosate is probably the number one lead cause for all the issues we're having, and it destroys your microbiome. Creates depression, and it's in everything. It's unavoidable. However, if we choose organic, we're definitely going to get less. So I would say like that is, and I think for me, I was so blessed to grow up in California. And I think at 18, I had this older woman friend of mine took me to a farmer's market, and I was like, what? I had never known, this existed. And it blew me away. And then I started, I was going for, I mean, it's so sad. That's the one thing I miss the most, but I grew to have a relationship with these farmers that I grew with, and they grow my food. I mean, what could be more intimate? They are growing food that you eat, and to have a connection with them and talk and their ups and downs, my ups and downs, or, during, certain seasons when there was drought or there was rain. I mean, it's just like you become more in touch with the cycles and the food you eat and your health. I really think it affects your health.
Absolutely. And that's such a beautiful action step for people listening is to go to your local farmers market if there's one near you and talk to the people with organic stands and get to know them. And that's such a beautiful thing you can even do in a city to feel more connected to your
Because
food.
so many of us have no idea where our food comes from. And that's one thing living in rural Texas. I have, the chance to see, like near us is a regenerative ranch called Rome Ranch, where they raise bison, and they have these hunts where you go and you hunt the bison, and then they, kill
Wow.
it and give it back to the land, and you can take a bite of the heart, and it's like such a different, you're like, oh my gosh, our food, we are so removed from our food. We just get the chicken in the plastic wrap, at the grocery store. We have no
Yeah.
connection to this chicken. I have a dear friend named Shiva Rose who lives in New Mexico, and she raises rabbits and chickens and then slaughters them for, her community. Like she grows them, raises them, and hangs out, it's like they're part of the family. And then she actually does the killing. And I mean, I don't know if I'm there yet, because it takes that's like incredible to me that she does that, but she's so closely connected to her food, and her community's food. And yeah, I think we've become so, oh my gosh, so unattached. It makes a difference.
And they can weaponize that disconnection. There's so many
Oh, yeah.
steps on the in between that.
Well, food is a bioweapon,
Mhm.
100% right now. You go and you eat this fast food and you give that to your, I mean, that's a bioweapon. I mean, just the
Yeah.
dyes and the, I mean, that it's, they don't, as you know, they don't sell the same food in Europe that they sell to us. Kraft has like a different setup in Europe. Things are banned there, but they sell it to us. And yes, it is, food is a bioweapon. No doubt about it. And it's tragic to me, tragic. And our water, I mean, the fact that we have the awful poison. I mean, don't get me started, but it's devastating.
No. I
And that's
mean,
why I
yeah.
hope we have a new future. I hope enough people are waking up to be like, okay, we need to stop this because only corporations are making money and our people are dying. You know, obesity is 40%. 40 to
Yeah.
50%. What the heck are we doing? You know,
Yeah.
that's a tragedy. And it's not the people's fault. It's just that it's like economical and that's what's affordable. But if enough of us like, you know, a good friend of mine was a South Central farmer, you know, and he created the South Central farm where he started growing food in his garden and then it grew and it grew and, you know, and
Wow.
then it became a movement, you know, in South Central where you like, you know, and people love it now. Now they're like taking their life back in their own hands through food.
That's so amazing. And I'm so passionate about this as well. I feel like our Scorpio placements are like, we see the BS and we can't scream loudly enough about it.
Yeah.
And especially when you're somebody who has a chronic illness, you can see the direct correlation between food and how you feel in your body. And I was raised with McDonald McFlurries and red dye 40 and eating out every single day. And when I got my first period, it was like a reckoning. It was the most painful. It was like the tax season for everything I had
Right.
been
Right.
consuming. And our parents
Oh,
didn't know any differently, but
no.
now we do. Now we are waking up. Social media is a great tool for that. So thank you so much for sharing this message because it really needs to be heard. And that's not to overwhelm people. It's just to say, make little choices every week to help you form new habits and routines and just keep
Right.
waking up. It's in layers. Just do it in
Mhm.
layers.
It's in layers. And you know, the
Yeah.
farmers want to sell the produce. If they don't sell it, it's going to go bad. So you can go, you know, when I was a student at UCLA and really broke, you know, I would go at the end of the market and be like, okay, I only have this much money. Will you say, you know, and they'll deal with you. They'll bargain with you know, at
Mhm.
times.
That's beautiful. I love that. That makes a lot of
Mhm.
sense too, because it expires. So,
Right.
so the last thing I want to ask you is so many people feel like they're in a place where they're depleted or burnt out or emotionally exhausted. And I'm wondering if you have any ritual suggestions or herbs or anything at all that can help people in a ritualistic way or just a magical way to fill their cup up when they feel down. To keep going with the water theme, filling up the cup.
Right. Well, I definitely think knowledge is power. That's why I do like allopathic medicine for diagnostic reports. I would do blood work, see what you're missing. See, and then again, minerals. Like minerals, we are lacking. We don't have it in our food anymore because the soil's so depleted. So everybody, I think, needs magnesium. I tell my, you know, my daughters at her school, I'm just like, I tell the principal, can we just make magnesium like every kid should just have magnesium? Can we put that on the newsletter? You know, um,
Yeah.
it's just like that's a given. Like I'm happy to say everyone should use salt, like Redmond salt, a salt that's not toxic. Put that in your water for the minerals, magnesium, and then again you can make it into a ritual, right? And the ritual is an intention. With this water, I hope to fulfill my souls, to quench my thirst, to hydrate my body so that I can be a full service to this beautiful earth. You know, something simple like that, and you can make it into a ritual. But I would definitely say those things. And also for women, again, if we go back to the old ways, we would go to the red tent during our cycle, right? I mean,
Mhm.
we take time for ourselves during those periods when we're bleeding and when we're taking care of our children. We really have to honor those cycles. And I think we're actually more productive once we do, right? When you're
Mhm.
on that, you become so much more fulfilled and productive when your cup is full. So I would say those are the things. Shut off the Wi-Fi. I shut off our, you know, satellite at night, and people get mad at me in the house, but I'm like, that's it. shut off because that interference is not good for us. See what else? Take a moment in the morning and greet, sunrise and sunset. Again, it's free. It's at our disposal. Our circadian rhythm needs it. The melatonin in our body. The reason why we have black pupils or dark pupils is to absorb the melanin and create melatonin.
Awesome. Well, this has been such an amazing talk. Thank you so, so much for coming on Magic Hour. And where can everyone find you? What do you want to talk about or promote? Yes,
Well,
all the
thank
things.
you. I'm so grateful to be here and happy spring to you. Happy Nowruz to you.
Nowruz Mubarak.
Oh, it's great. Your Farsi is good. I'm
Thank
impressed.
you. Thank you.
Um, yes, I'm at Local Rose is my Instagram, and the water course will be on there soon. And then I have a book called Whole Beauty, and then I have a skincare line called Shiva Rose Beauty, which is all non-toxic skincare that I started a decade ago when I realized how awful the skincare industry was. So I think those are all the places pretty much.
Beautiful. We will link that all in the show notes. And I know everybody will really benefit so much from this. So thank you so much, Shiva.
Thank you. So lovely getting to know you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sitting with Spirit, our weekly segment where I give you the messages that I get while I sit with Spirit for the collective. Keep in mind, I'm recording this during eclipse season, but I don't know when you'll be listening to it. So take the messages that resonate with you, leave the ones that don't. It's all good. And if you know anybody who could benefit from these messages, please share the episode with them. So the very first symbol, and I don't know why I get surprised every single week that the messages with Sitting with Spirit correlate with what we spoke about on the episode. But a lot of what was coming up was third eye upgrades and trusting our intuition more. And what they're really making me aware of is going more inward and trusting your own spiritual authority instead of trying to search for the answers outside of yourself, deepening your trust with yourself. And it's interesting because another message that was coming through was this deep sense of fatigue around the collective. And I got this sense that it's like you have this vision of where you're going, what you want to create, what you want for your life, but the actual physical implementation of it feels draining or slow or heavy. And something that your angels were saying was fatigue as a holy messenger, meaning the fatigue itself is a sort of intuitive message saying it's time to slow down. It's time to do less. Stop putting pressure on yourself to do all of the things. Listen to what your body needs. And it's an intentional pumping of the brakes so that you actually have space for that third eye opening and that intuitive connection. And it's funny because your angels and guides are giving me this very interesting feeling of them being very aware of where you're growing and what's in store for you, and them being so excited for something that you cannot see yet, but that your experience in this moment is very energetically different. You're in the cord cutting, the releasing, the healing, the figuring out the foundations. And so your angels want you to know that they see the bigger picture and that they're cheering you on. And don't feel like you have to beat the clock or do things by a certain time or push yourself past your physical limits. Because I do see that for some people, the chronic illness stuff that we spoke about in the episode is actually relevant to this message as well, with the fatigue. And it feels like the dream life that you want to create starts with listening to what your body needs and having patience with that. And so there's just this kind of push-pull energy I get from where we're growing and who we're becoming and what our actual physical experience is right now. And there's just this message of keep the faith, let yourself rest, because it's been a whole lot of energy with eclipse season and all of this upheaval. Let yourself integrate so that you don't burn out. We know it's been a lot. I also had the sweetest grandmother come over to me in spirit. And she was just pure joy. Her message, and again, take this if it relates to you. And if some of it relates, it's a postcard from your angels and from your spirit past loved ones in spirit. So if some of it relates, know that it's a little wink from them to you. But I feel a grandmother who lived to pretty old age and like 80s or 90s, and she had memory loss. So this can be dementia, this can be Alzheimer's. I feel like towards the end, she didn't remember who she was or who you were to her. And because of that, she couldn't say goodbye in the way that she wanted to. And she couldn't tell you how much she loved you in the way she wanted to. And that feels quite emotional. It feels like this grandmother would have had a really special place in your heart. She's showing me that the holidays were really important to her, especially Christmas. So I feel like in her time, she would have hosted a lot of people. And keep in mind this message, as it's for this Magic Hour community, it might be for many people. So if it wasn't Christmas, then it would have been your culture's equivalent to that. So there's something here with her best memories being when the family was gathered and when she was taking care of everyone. And I just see the biggest smile on her face when she talks about you. She's handing you a daisy and she's showing you butterflies as a sign from her. So daisies and butterflies are the sign. And she just wanted to use this opportunity to say, you know, she loves you so much in a way that she couldn't at the very end, and that she is most definitely with you as a guide. And it's interesting too, because she's showing me a pair of high heels. And I feel like either she would have had a good style, or in her day really cared about like looking good and put together. And it just feels like what she's telling me is she's dancing now on the other side. I just see her like dancing there in her dancing shoes. So there's something really, really beautiful with that. And she's just such a lovely energy. And the last thing she's saying is that for whoever this message is for, if you feel like you've been sliding or falling or can't keep up with anything or having a hard time keeping up, there's this message here of her being there as a guide and that she's your biggest cheerleader on the other side. So I hope that whoever needed that message got it from her, because she's just such a lovely, and for some reason, this will relate for somebody, but she's calling you Tweety Bird. So I don't know if there's a connection to the cartoon or I'm not really sure, but I just hear Tweety Bird. So take that for what it is. Take the postcards for what came up, and just know that you are so, so loved. Have a beautiful week, everyone.
If you have any questions about intuition, spirituality, angels, or anything and everything magical, please email contact@magichourpod.com. We will answer listener questions once a month in our solo episodes. Are you an aligned business owner that would like to advertise to our beautiful community of magical people? Please email contact@magichourpod.com. Make sure you're subscribing to Magic Hour so you never miss the magic. And don't forget to leave us 5 sparkling star reviews. They help more magical people find the pod. Please screenshot and email your 5-star reviews to contact@magichourpod.com, and we will send you a free downloadable angelic meditation and enter you to win an angel reading with Taylor Page. The first angel reading giveaway will happen when we hit 55 5-star reviews. For more information on Taylor and her work, go to angelsandamethyst.com or connect with her on Instagram at angels_and_amethyst. She is the one verified account with this name and will never DM you for a reading.
Thank you for listening to Magic Hour with Taylor Page. Remember, you are magic.